I've only been in like 3 fights, and 2 of them were right around my monitor. One was with this guy that's playing bass with me. I won't name him. He was really drunk, and he kept taking his bass and smashing the cymbals of my drummer. We were about 5 songs in, and the drummer just stopped, and he said, "Quit hitting my cymbals." And I said, "Y'all get off stage, and I'll play one by myself." And so I did that and let them kind of chill out and let me think for a second what I was going to do. And when he come back on stage, I said, "Man, don't do that, don't do that on the stage." And he goes, "Can you cuss on this thing?"
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he goes, "F you, F you." And right in the middle, I just snapped, went bam, and hit him. And then all these little tables, these little fights broke out. There's like 5 or 6 little, and it cleared this whole bar. It was a mess. Bouncers jumped on me.
How old were you?
Old enough. And then I played at, there's one Motel 6 bar in the world, and it's in Altus, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I got a gig there, and we were playing, and someone was heckling me, and I said something about a mullet, and this guy come up to the front of the stage, and he just stands up, and he gets in front of me and my microphone, and just is going like, "What?" Just bam, knocked him out to the dance floor, and then my merch guy came running and jumped on him. Yeah.
Did you finish the gig out, or was that it? Was that the end of the show?
We finished it at the Motel 6 because that was pretty quick work. But the brawl, no, that cleared it all out. Oh man, that guy was mad at me for years that ran that place. Don't let the day up and slip away from you. Try to stay inside of the moment.
Meeting Mike McClure, former frontman for The Great Divide and now touring with the Mike McClure Band, is a little like meeting the cat from a Christofferson song. He's a journeyman's journeyman, a songwriter. The kind of musician that other musicians claim is their favorite. The kind of guy that other musical cats trying to make it show up to watch and listen to and sing along with and learn from.
I was 10 in 1981, and Willie Nelson's Honeysuckle Rose had just come out. And I saw that movie and was just captivated by it. I just thought, man, I want to do that. I want to be that. I told Dad I wanted to learn to take guitar lessons, so we went to the Shawnee. I had the flea market over by Mission Hill. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy that had an old gut string acoustic for sale. He wanted $30 for it. My dad told me, he goes, "Go tell him you give him 20. I was like, "But he wants 30 for it." Mm-hmm. So I go up there and I'm like, "I'll give you 20. And then the guy says, "Well, I got 25 in it." And I don't know this bartering thing. I still suck at it. And I go back to Dad, I'm like, "He's got 25 in it." And he goes, "All right, we'll give him $25. So we got that acoustic, and then I started learning some Willie songs, and there's probably 10 or 15 records that we had at the house, and they were Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson, and Willie Sings Chris Christofferson was one that we had, which, Christofferson's one of my favorite songwriters, and Willie was my favorite artist growing up, and, it started out that way, and then in high school, have you heard of the band Seether?
Yeah.
Well, the guy that plays drums, he's from Tecumseh, and we had a band and would practice in my garage. And we'd go to basketball games, and like at time, just sit up in the corner and no PA, and then there'd be a timeout, and we'd be like the band. We'd play a piece of Zeppelin or, just play some sort of rock song and play to halftime and stuff. We did that a few times, but I guess my first gig at a beard joint was in Shawnee on the corner of Beard and Farrell Loop. It's called the Twilight Lounge, and we'd play a few sets, and then the other night, I think the owner's like, "I really can't pay you what I said I would."
That was your first
There's
gig?
a start, yeah. Yeah, that tradition would continue for a while.
Ask any country or red dirt musician in Oklahoma about McClure, and you have a pretty solid chance they're going to smile and recount some mythologized story or start spouting off the lyrics to his songs. I asked him about the rumor I heard that he'd once recorded an entire album while wearing a medieval knight's suit of armor. He dismissed it as a fairy tale, but he was kind of smiling when he did, so I didn't know whether or not to believe him. Everybody's got a story about him, and he's been doing his thing long enough to soundtrack a lot of lives.
We went to Oklahoma City and recorded 3 songs on cassette. That's how old we are. And brought those back, and they made some copies, and they kind of got around some of our little friend group that we were running with, and people started to learn those songs. That's the first time that I had my stuff, someone knew it, you know, like something original that I had written. And
What were the songs?
one was called I'd Rather Have Nothing, which Great Divide cut, and then Garth went on to cut on a box set. And we did that one, a song called Looking On Back about my grandparents. Oh, I can't remember what the Who the Hell Are You, or something like some ridiculous song. And we got it to a radio station, and they played one of them in Oklahoma City. They had like a local talent kind of thing. And then that's the first time I heard one of my songs on a radio, and that was that's a big thing, you know. That's what you kind of dream of when you start out. And then after that got around and I was playing some acoustic out with this guy, I got back with the Great Divide guys and said, hey, do you want to back me as my band? And so I'd write the songs and we'd get together and bang them out. And they were really good. They were older than I was. And Scott Lester, he's the oldest in the band, but he was a Marine sergeant. So he really approached it as a business. Everybody quit their day jobs, which it wasn't hard for me. I was just going to school and laying around drinking. But we started playing locally, and then decided it was time to do a CD. We went down with Lloyd in Lubbock and recorded Great Divide's first album. That's like 94 or so. When we got that CD back, we got 500 cassettes and 500 CDs, and we started selling our own. And then we did another record, and that one got picked up by Atlantic, and they just basically repackaged it and put it out, and then they paid for our third record, which is Revolutions.
Well, how did it change you guys, like signing? How did that change you guys at all in terms of your process? Or?
Yeah, absolutely, because on our own, we'd sold about 20,000 independently of our records, but we were running it like we were the label, and we'd hire independent radio promoters, and, you know, we'd book our shows. We just did everything, and everybody had different jobs. I was in charge of the newsletter. You know, he still mailed out actual things in the actual mail.
Yeah.
And then when we signed, we just kind of pumped the brakes on doing stuff, just thinking, all right, we're here now, and this label's going to do this. And they just weren't that great at it. They're just, I don't know if they had it so easy for so long in the 90s that everybody just, it was reactionary work instead of being proactive. And, you know, we kind of took away our proactive of trying to push this thing a little farther every day. And we turned the reins over, and then it just kind of stagnated. We recorded on our own terms, and we played our own stuff, wrote our own stuff, and they left us alone.
Well, that would be my next question, because like with, say, independent film, like a lot of times you're toiling around with no money, putting together whatever you can.
Yeah.
And you always want money. You're like waiting for that
it's always
somebody
nice
to jump in and support you or whatever. But then once you get money, then you've got somebody to answer to.
Yeah.
So did that change you creatively at all in regards
Not really. Not in that situation. I know what you're talking about. But by them leaving us alone and him seeing that they knew how much we were selling on our own, and they knew from clubs that we were packing out clubs, and he told us, he goes, what you guys is doing is work. We're just going to throw some money at it. And which that was good. But, but the thing that was detrimental to it was us stopping working. Just like, okay, we're on Atlantic.
We made it.
You know, yeah, we made it.
Yeah.
Where's the shades? Where's the champagne? And
I think that it seems like to me that the worst thing to happen, like when you're on a pursuit of something, is getting there.
yeah,
You know, because then you think you can stop, and really that's just another doorway you got to walk through at that point. If you get too comfortable, then you start to lose that whatever's pushing you
comfort will
forward.
take away that drive. You know, I think it's that hunger, the hunger for someone to hear your stuff. You know, and then someone likes it, and then to make more, and to keep going, and then you know, after a while, if you get too comfortable, you don't have that hunger, and you know, you could not put an album out for 3 years like I have.
The bottom floor of his house is home to the famed BooHatch recording studio, where he's dedicated a lot of time to making other people sound good. The quality of artists who have recorded here, Jason Boland, the Turnpike Troubadours, Cross Canadian Ragweed, countless others, speaks to Mike's talent as a producer and an engineer. In addition to his own career, he's passionate about helping other people in their climb.
When I first started recording, I would just be hired as a producer, where I'd basically just come in and just kind of orchestrate the thing, and someone else would engineer and run it. And I didn't know how to do that at the time, so I partnered with Travis Linville, and we had the Dirty Bird studio over by Lake Dirty Bird, and we did that for probably 2 or 3 years. Did a lot of records, and the guy who was mixing for me is a guy named Joe Hardy, who just recently passed, but he's a guy that did Steve Earle Copperhead Road. You know, he did that album and mixed it, and he worked with ZZ Top, starting at Eliminator on all the way through. He did my album Foam after we did Ragweed's Garage record, and I was trying to, you know, finish up recording, and I couldn't afford really to go in, and he said, I'm going to send you some gear and teach you how to do it. So he sent me a program, everything I know. I said, man, I don't know anything about computers at all. And he said, well, just go till you get hung and email me, and I'll walk you through it. And once I learned how to engineer, and, you know, I'd get home from the road, and I'd have to drive from here, Ada, to Norman, where Travis was at, and it's an hour and a half, and I'd have to stay the night generally, because I had to drink some beer, you know. And but I was just gone from home so much, and I wanted to be able to work here, but still be able to pop upstairs and eat dinner with my family. And I said, all right, I'm going to run the studio from here. And one of my first bands was Turnpike Troubadours. They came in, and we did Diamonds and Gasoline in here, and that was my first start. I'd be reading the manual when they're not looking, and like, oh yeah, I got this. But I remember being scared just because it's in your hands, you know. And
How many bands you had come through here?
oh man, I don't know. Probably a couple hundred, you know,
Really?
different. You know, I get a lot of songwriters. Well, they'll come in and we'll just sit down. They'll want to record some songs, and then they might want a band added to it. I do that a lot, and you know, a band will come in, and I'll just kind of engineer because they know what they want to do. It's, you know, whatever they need, I'll be that. A lot of times it's helping them arrange the songs, or just getting good sounds and making sure the sessions run smooth, because they can go south in a heartbeat. But if, you know, you keep your head around them and just keep a relaxed environment, that's been important.
Why do they call it the BooHatch?
Well, this lady named Robin Devon I worked with, she told me one day, she goes, stick it up your BooHatch. And I said, what? And I said, then I told her, I'll have a studio name that one day, you watch. So I've kind of stubbornly named it.
And here we are.
So it's just kind of, I don't know, Butthole Studio. I don't know.
Mike walks me around his place in Ada. It was like a redneck version of Alice in Wonderland. He talked passionately about his desire to use this spot as a haven for creatives and musicians, a place for songwriter workshops. It makes sense. Hearing him talk about the artistic community in Stillwater and the effect it would ultimately have on his career, and you realize how much artists can help each other evolve and how much that process means to him. This is something Mike takes seriously, the craft of it all.
That fostering thing and that community, that sense, like I was saying earlier about, you know, in Stillwater, I felt that. And my girlfriend, my new girlfriend. So weird, I'm 47, I got a girlfriend. But she's done songwriter workshops and different workshops, art workshops, and she said, you should really try that. We should do that out of the house. And a little hesitant because I'd never experienced something like that before. So, you know, we had our first class, and then Susan Gibson, she's a great songwriter. She wrote Wide Open Spaces, and just a great songwriter. She came in, and she's done them before, and she had flashcards and everything, just talking about songwriting and the craft. And I love studying the craft. And
Right.
And, you know, some people, they come in and they've got some good ideas, but they're just not really polished. And, you know, it's helping them put it into form and talk about different writer you know, tricks of the trade and whatnot. And so it was cool to see, you know, the nerves and all that, and just talking through them just about the process of writing and them being around other writers. You know, there's 7 other writers with them that are into the same thing. And some people aren't exposed to that. You know, I wasn't growing up. Of course, that was pre-internet and cell phones, but I wasn't really exposed to a community of like-minded people that were encouraging and inspiring, you know, and that's what we've tried to do up there. And so that part of it's cool for me, and then being able to work with young writers, and, you know, so a lot of them know my work, and you know, so they want to come in and work on stuff together.
Yeah.
It don't work that way. Just put it down. If you can't go around, then go over under. Now under is heaven. Is it closer, farther from us now?
There's a real strong sense of like roots and Oklahoma and locations in Oklahoma in your songwriting. So tell me a little bit about what Oklahoma means to you as an artist. Or
I don't know, when you start dealing with life and death and all the things in between, you realize the importance of your family. It's always been interesting for me to kind of put that into some sort of landscape. You know, my great-grandpa, he was from Pink, and they kind of write themselves, really. Mm-hmm. You know, just, he was a bootleg moonshiner, went to prison and got out, and I can remember my grandma telling me stories of them hiding underneath the house, looking up through the slats as the revenuers were looking for a steal.
Really?
And, you know, busting through the house, and he's under there with 6 daughters going, shh.
Right.
And just my grandma's brother, he went to World War II, got gunned down on an island. And, you know, there's a picture of him standing next to his mom right before he's shipping off, and it's all over her face, you know. It's like she knew. You know, just that time period's fascinating, to look at those pictures and knowing if it wasn't for these people, I wouldn't be here. And there's some pretty interesting characters in my family tree, so I kind of go to that well, you know, quite a bit.
Yeah.
If I'm not just trying to psychoanalyze myself, you know, talk myself out of a...
You see a lot of artists, a lot of writers that or a lot of people that try to forget where they're from. Like they're running somewhere and not looking back.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying you shouldn't be staring back the whole way, but like you got that rear view for a reason. You know what I mean?
You can look back and learn from it. And, you know, I think a lot of people feel awkward in their teens, and, you know, they're mad at their parents, like, I'm getting out of this town, and everybody gets out and they run, and they realize that it's just another town, and the same crap goes on. But that's the cool thing about songwriting, though, is when you've got something going on in your head and you can get it down onto paper and make it make sense. It helps ease that, and then if someone hears that, it can help ease that same thing in them.
Right.
And that's rewarding, you know, because I've had people over the years come up like, man, your songs got me through a hard time. And one guy said, yeah, that Breaking the Storm must be my old lady's sex song.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can't wait to play that tonight.
Right.
Jack was his oldest boy. He went off to the big war.
Mike's a sharp guy. He's shrewd in his thinking and quirky as hell. Has 1,000 stories and a way of telling them that makes you want to listen with both ears. Talking to him means about half the time you're laughing and half the time you're wondering if he's telling the truth. You don't wonder that about his music, though. He treats that microphone like some kind of polygraph, and you end up believing every word he sings. Mike weaves a lot of narratives into his music, and many of them feel distinctly Oklahoman. It's refreshing in a state with occasional self-esteem issues to have such affection for the place we both grew up. A lot of his work plays out like love songs to his family or small towns. Somebody once said, if you can tell the story of your village well, you will have told the story of the world. Get specific enough in your songs, you'll break a few hearts. In truth, it's universal.
Dirt poor and they didn't even know it. Oklahoma in the 1940s. Yeah, the ones that came before, my Lord, they swore. Yeah, they had an even tougher time, just trying to find their own in the land of infinite. Oklahoma in the 1920s. Yeah, the wind swept down the plains and all Dust Bowl came and it howled right through the wall. And the hanging in was hanging on, hanging out until the end was gone. Hard scrabbled and chested metal, red lettered and time proving. Oklahoma and you keep on moving. Swept down the plains and all Dust Bowl came and it howled right through the walls. Hanging in was hanging on and hanging out until the end was gone. Hard scrabbled and chested metal, red lettered and time proving. Oklahoma and you keep on moving. Hard scrabbled and chested metal, red lettered and time proving. Oklahoma and you keep on moving.